Hi everybody and welcome back to All Talk Scottish Premiership. It's episode 3 of season 2. As you can see, Brooklyn, it's just me and Brooklyn. He's having a wee drink. It was his birthday the other day, so happy birthday to him. A wee quick mention to a company called Organised Chaos. They do these sort of talks for sort of rave. I mean, I'm not really a raver, but it's a really nice talk. They do it in blue as well, and they do some shorts. So a massive shout out to them as well. Find them on Instagram and stuff, and order some of their clobber because it's a really good fit and it's comfy to wear, especially in this heat. But Brooklyn, how are you?
Mate, probably absolutely everyone else, mate, is fucking roasting. Like, no matter where I go, mate, doesn't matter if you're in the office, if you're working from home, if you're outside, it's just, man, it came out of nowhere. Like,
I know.
we all thought that was it done, but aye, surprise, surprise, Scotland provides you with fucking shock weather.
That's it.
But aye, out with that, mate, how are you? How are you keeping?
I'm good. A few home improvements. Obviously, last week watching back, it was a little bit dark on my side of things, so I've actually bought a spotlight. That's because I do gigs in that as well. So I bought that for when I'm playing, but it's came in use for the show this week. But we are going to get right into it because some surprising but not surprising results. But I'm not even going to ask you straight away about the game. I'm just going to go Rangers Dundee penalty or not.
Mate, the full game is fucking, honest to God, it's where to start. The full fan base is completely divided on the manager, the players, decision, just fucking top to bottom. Which we're two league games into the season, and this is the situation we're sitting in. It feels as if we just ended the last season with all these kind of talking points, and we're fucking right back to it. But to answer your question, I think it's really strange how divided the nation is over that penalty, right? Because when I first, obviously, the red card happens first. Watching that, by the letter of the law, 100% it's a red card. He's the last man, it's technical goal scoring opportunity. But when you do watch it, and honest to God, it looks as if the Dundee player he makes it for himself. He runs across Giga. Giga can't go anywhere. They're both running in the same direction at the same speed. As I said, by the letter of the law, it's a sending off. But then it's the exact same foul in the box. And everyone, no Rangers fan or anything else is saying it should be a red card because it's not a red card, but it's the exact same foul. Maybe slightly worse because he catches him not once but twice. So how the fuck can people sit and say that one is a blatant red card and X, Y, and Z, and there's no argument for it, but the exact same foul happens inside the box and everyone's up in arms about it? Because that is the one thing that football fans always say, and it doesn't matter who you support, whether it's the old firm, any team in Scotland, a team in England, a national team. People always say if that foul happened anywhere else in the park, it's a foul. And more often not, the ref won't give it because it's in the 6 yard box or the penalty box. Sorry, that is as clear a fucking penalty as you're going to get, as far as I'm concerned. And I don't understand why there's so much debate around it.
So I think, I mean, what also doesn't help Rangers is because it's not a well-known thing, but it's maybe not like a meme, but it is like a well-known thing. And I don't even mean like Celtic fans would say it, but it would be like quite, like, see if you were looking at your phone and you're like, Rangers are getting beaten in the 87th minute. It's like, a penalty's coming. Look at, I'm not saying a lot of them aren't penalties, but look at the Queen's Park game. Like, yeah, they missed it, but there's so many games where you go, oh my God, Rangers are 2-1 down. Oh my God, Rangers are 2 each. And
But
what
I
I
think,
will say, sorry, then you go.
mate, I think the reason is right is because you look at any team that gets a lot of penalties, whether it be a Rangers, a Celtic, again, a team down south, a team in Spain. If you're creating so many chances and you're in your opposition's box 90% of the game, the chances of you eventually getting fouled because they've lost concentration, especially when you get later on in the game where players are tired and are making rash decisions. I think especially with the Dundee game there, it was because Rangers had so much of the ball and done nothing with it, which I'm sure we'll speak about in a minute. But they then, for some reason, about the 82nd, 83rd minute, Rangers decided, right, let's actually do something with this, and started playing more attacking-minded passes, opposed to just going left, right, left, right, left, right. They started actually trying to play that killer ball. So I get what you're saying to an extent, but I mean, that argument, again, to me, is just ridiculous because again, tired minds, you're creating more chances, you're putting on more pressure. If you watch, if you watch any when the Champions League starts back up, you could literally be watching fucking Dortmund versus Lille, two teams who are respected but not much. If that is a second leg game in a knockout tie, and Lille need a goal, of course in the last 10 minutes they're going to have more pressure, and Dortmund are going to sit deeper. So it's just natural how football will always be, no matter how big or small the two sides are.
I think, I mean, this isn't me sitting on the fence here, right? I would obviously love to say it's not a penalty and have Rangers fans biting. I think the red card is a red card, but the only thing that second guesses me with the penalty, which I will admit, if it's for the team I'm supporting, you are asking for it. But what I think people maybe are questioning is Gassama is holding the Dundee player's shirt. So you could technically look at it the way as see if the Dundee player was trying to get out the way of him, he wouldn't have been able to because so see if you look at it right, see if me and you are running and I pull your shirt, but then you tackle me, I've technically fouled you first because I've pulled your shirt. So realistically, by the letter of the law, Gassama is fouled the Dundee player first by pulling his shirt and then got tackled. So realistically, the Dundee player got fouled first because he's got his shirt pulled and he can't get away for the player.
But firstly, they're both pulling each other's shirts. Secondly, the Dundee boy knees Gassama in the side of the thigh or the hip. And also, if someone's trying to run the other direction for you and you're pulling their shirt, you're going to pull them back just by the laws of physics. But if you're running the same direction and you're pulling their shirt, you're pulling them in the same direction anyway. So it's not as if like the Dundee boy can get out the way. He doesn't need to tangle his legs. At the end of the day, that's his shirt. The shirt is if this is what we're saying and this is the argument people are going to put, the shirt getting pulled creates a distance of about that because the shirt for the shirt to be pulled from the still images I've seen, you're looking the shirt's maybe pulled out by about that. I just don't understand this thing of he pulled him into the foul. No, because he didn't. He's pulling on his coat. People are saying he's pulling on his shirt. That doesn't affect his knee going into him and then clipping his ankles. Maybe
No,
if he
I
was
get that. I
pulling,
get that.
maybe if
Aye.
he was pulling his shirt and people, maybe it's different if it was a handball decision and people are saying he pulled him into it, then aye, fair enough. But if someone's pulling, if you're walking about the street and someone pulls your t-shirt and you volley them, you can't turn around and say, "I know, but I couldn't get out of the way of you." Like, nah.
I get both sides. I think at the time, obviously, I'm kind of thinking, "Oh, that's typical." Like, and it is like you do see it coming. I mean, I know maybe in the past couple of years, like what you're saying, with attacking in the box, Celtic have started to get penalties, but you could also argue against that. Where I'm pretty sure I would need to look up the exact year, but there was a year where Celtic had less penalties, or they had the same amount of penalties as like Ross County. So always attacking doesn't mean you always get the penalties that you think you deserve. But the main thing is Rangers shouldn't be needing a penalty in the last minute against Dundee to get a draw. I think maybe that's one of the games where see if that happens even in like December or maybe March, where there is a run of a lot of games in December, or there's some games where it's like you just need to get a point. But I think at the start of the season, I mean, obviously Dessers ended up scoring and it was offside, and you know that maybe would have changed things, but I don't think it's a worrying place for Rangers. I know it might look like that, and I'm not just saying that because I'm a Celtic fan. I just don't. But I did say to you in the first show, unless Russell Martin, unless a team splits the old firm, or he does that good that he ends up leaving, I don't think you can get rid of him. I think you need to stick with a manager for like 2-3 years. I think constantly changing managers is not worked for Rangers. And sometimes, right, usually I don't, being you said, right, it's good people talking out in the press, right? Sometimes I'm like, Russell Martin needs to rein it in a wee bit. But then at
Aye.
the same time, he needs to do something different because the past 3 or 4 managers haven't been able to change anything. So maybe outing these players and being open-minded when he's talking is the right thing. But obviously you see this thing where it's like, oh, this postponed the game, so by the old firm match, Celtic could be 7 points clear. After that, it could be tempting. And it's like every match actually could be a worry now for Rangers fans. Like, see, even, right, for example, see if when Celtic were like 20 point, like 16, 17 points clear. See when we went away to like a Dundee last year, I still worry because you still care and you want your team to win. But Rangers are in a place now that, like, not even their next away game, but their next home game could really, really put them in a bit of bother.
I think that's the biggest thing, mate. You see, taking away everything else, it's the way that Rangers are playing, and I'm not fucking going to harp on about the quote unquote style of play or whatever, and it's just no worth it anymore. But I do think it's ridiculous. I understand that Rangers have dropped points, in the first opening 2 games. It's 2 games you should be expected to win. One, because you're Rangers, and two, it's 2 teams that people kind of have, including ourselves, quite low down the table. Well, actually, that's a lie. You've got Motherwell in the top 6, if I'm right in saying. This is obviously before Lennon Miller left. But I think people also need to stop being so reactive because, again, we're 2 league games in at the end of the day. You're 2 games in. We've actually navigated. Yeah, we lost against Victoria Pilsen last night 2-1. However, you've still navigated, what is it, 3 rounds now in European competition. And that was slow integrating players. It's not going to fucking happen overnight because you can't, on one hand, sit and criticise. I mean, the previous 2 managers have been Beale and Clement, obviously prior to Barry Ferguson taking into him. They're 3 managers that have kind of brought in their own players or put on their own stamp in the team and whatever else. And now you're trying to say to some of those players, this is now how you're playing. You're also saying to some of them, you're not part of my plans. But you're also bringing a bunch of new players that are come from here, there, and everywhere that need to gel. That doesn't happen overnight. And I understand that at a club as big as Rangers, you kind of need it to. But that's not how the world works. It's just simply not. It takes, if you or I started a new job and walked in, if the manager turned around to you and said, right, this is how we do it here, comes up to you the following day and goes, why have you not learned this? It's not fucking, you physically can't, it's not practical. And I understand footballers, it's based on their ability and a lot more money, and that'll be the argument and blah, blah, blah. It still takes time. And a lot of the boys that Rangers have brought in this season are for their youth. Kisama's, I think, 21. I think Ant-Man's only 23. Asgard, I think, is only 22. Iggy, who's obviously one of Rangers' still massive hopes, I think he's only 20. Mikey Moore's only just turned 18. All of these players are still so young. It's going to take time, and that's obviously the thing. It's the worrying thing is Russell Martin might not get time. And then what happens then? You go out and you maybe bring in a fucking Ancelotti, or you bring in someone and they'll get the new manager bounce maybe. Or what if they don't? If they don't get that new manager bounce with the same group of players, then what you do, like you said, you're just going to fucking keep changing manager every single couple of months because all you're doing is a short-term fix for a long-term issue. And that is the biggest thing. So you might go out and you might change manager and you might win 1 or 2 old firms and you might be able to enjoy that day or two. But then for the season, in the next season, in the following season after that, you're in the same boat, which is what Rangers have been for the last 3-4 seasons now. And see the fucking revisionism about Giovanni Van Bronckhorst. I'll always love him for what he done in Europe. However, I sat and watched him fucking put out teams in the league, and my fucking god, it was on par, if not worse. So I'm not having all of this. Oh, we should have kept him, should have kept so and so. We didn't, and we're here now, and that's what matters.
I think the overtake, from the 49ers is, I think it's maybe just papered over some cracks because Celtic and Man City, right, have been the 2 most beneficial teams money-wise in the UK, right, in the past year. But see if Celtic don't get into the Champions League, that can really, really affect them as a club. And I personally don't think Rangers will get by Bruges. I don't, and I'm not just saying that. I just don't think Rangers will. I think they're going to be looking at Europa League football. And yes, when you look at the Europa League, it possibly with the teams that are in it isn't as strong as it I wouldn't say this year with the teams that are in it, it's as strong as the teams that Rangers maybe got through to actually get to the final. But that is a big hit in money, and it's one of the ones I know you've got through Panathinaikos and Pilsen, but see if you don't get by Bruges and you get into the Europa League, I don't even see these going on a decent wee run. I just don't think Rangers are good enough for a European run. I think the way they're playing at the minute, it is going to take time, but I don't think it's going to. I genuinely could see Celtic being 10 points clear by like October, November, and I said it last year. I said it last year under Clement, and everybody thought like Rangers were coming back again and stuff. And I said it last year, and I was right. But Clement you knew he was on his way out, even though he never got sacked in October. I think he actually got all the way to kind of the following year. But I don't see Martin getting sacked, and I'd be really, really shocked if he did. But people calling for his head right now is a bit mental. But Dundee as well, obviously, a bit of credit to them. They did set up well, but I would just because they've got a draw at Ibrox, I kind of am still backing them to finish bottom.
Do you know, I think that's it. I think we obviously mentioned when they played Hibs that they were already playing that 10 men behind the ball, and that was at home against Hibs, who are obviously in the last maybe probably 12, no, but the last 6 months, all in all, Hibs have been flying, it's fair to say. But to start so negative at your first game of the season, the way they set up, we mentioned last week that was a concern for us. It obviously worked going to Ibrox. It'll probably work to an extent going to Parkhead. I don't think they'll get a draw. I think when I say to an extent, I think they'll maybe shut you out for half an hour, and then it could be the floodgates. But that will work in certain games. But when they play a team that is maybe looking to do the same and can I do that anti-football, that is where I'm worried for them. And sometimes football works in strange ways. So much so I can see a point where, you know, Dundee go on a really bad run, Presley gets sacked, and then it'll just be a running joke that basically one of his only points was away to Rangers, and that'll be one of those ones that people look back on. It's like, last season where Rangers drew with Hearts and everyone's at just a good point away to Hearts, and then obviously the run that they went on, Naismith gets sacked. But like you're saying, at the end of the day, you can see what Dundee were doing. They wanted to sit deep. They, to an extent, didn't even really want to catch Rangers on the break. They weren't really looking to do that either. It was just keeping the ball when they had it, and then obviously playing on set pieces, which I think is going to be a thing that a lot of teams seem to be doing against Rangers. But I mean, it's well worked at the end of the day. They've took the free kick. They've obviously worked on it, clip it to the back post, headed it back across, and go for that second ball. And then it's like you're saying, it's a kind of lack of concentration at the end to give away the penalty. But it's to be completely honest, I'd say they were actually unlucky to not get all 3 points.
Aye. No, they were. I agree. I thought they played well. But a good point for them. It gets them a point on the board, and it only puts them. I'd been worrying if they were on a run of losing to start off Dundee, but a good wee point away to Ibrox for them. And what do you think of, just a kind of quick yes or no, do you think Rangers will get past Bruges?
No.
No, so that's 2-0 for that.
I mean, I've seen highlights, some of the game last night, and the two wingers look so fucking direct. And the boy they've got Van Aken, he's been there for countless years now. He's a club captain, seems to be kind of 10, 15, 20 goals a season. He's a massive threat. And Giga looked quite physical, but Suter in the last 18 months seems to have lost all his physicality. And if they just play on Suter and Jeffy, Jesus fucking Christ, mate, we're in trouble.
Well, they gave Celtic a game last year, obviously, 1-0 up to that mad Carter Vickers own goal, and then Maeda scored an absolute topper. But regarding teams coming to Celtic Park, look, I am not saying here that Bruges are better than Bayern Munich, but when Bayern Munich came to Celtic Park, they didn't wow me. They scored a belter early before half time, and then Johnson lost his man at a corner. But when Bruges came, you were actually at off Jesus, like it was a pure sucker punch. And then they ended up putting Atalanta out in the following round. So they're definitely going to be a tough game.
So how do you feel about a team all the way from the Chinese borders coming to Celtic Park? Because I think we have to kind of briefly touch on that tie because it's also sandwiched in between the Old Firm game,
Uh,
so it could affect both sides.
I'll confidently say it right now. Celtic go through and Celtic win the Old Firm, and it's not like that's not like we tinted green glasses on. I just think what I think there'll be is I think there'll be too much put on this travel. Do you know what I mean? I think it'll be too much. Oh, Celtic this, Celtic that, and they'll turn up. I mean, you need to remember these guys will be flying on planes that will probably have their own beds on it. Do you know what I mean? Like, it can affect a player, but I hope that much pressure gets put on it. Like, because pressure will be on Rangers because the point, obviously, the 2 games already, and then people look at it going, "Oh, if you want to have a go at Celtic, you want to have a go at them now because they've just flew to the fucking other side of the world, pretty much." So when the pressure's on Rangers, they never really turn up. So obviously, I'm not saying, "Oh, I'm happy with getting that team." You want a Bratislava who you beat last year, and you know you can go and beat at Celtic Park, and then the away leg's a different story. Whereas this team could come to Celtic Park and they could give you a game. I think, and look, Celtic have beat a team, Astana, 5-0 before, and we've went to the away leg and still nearly get put out. It ended 4-3. I know we scored 3 goals, but at the time, I think we were maybe nearly 3-0 down.
Could
So,
also have been maybe at that time, obviously, you're looking at maybe away goals and everything else, so there probably was a point in that tie where it was, a bit more terrifying than what it could have been.
and then Shakhtar Karagandhi, years ago, they beat us 2-0 over there. And then in the home leg, I'm pretty sure Commons, Samaras, and James Forrest scored in the last minute to beat them 3-0 and put us through. So these teams, I mean, as we kind of touched on last week with Hibs and the Dundee United game, these teams aren't easy, but Hibs and Dundee United will go into them. But I think, because I was going to say there, I think if Celtic go into the second leg 3 or 4-0 up, yeah, you still need to take the guys away with you, but you maybe don't need to play them. But then I disagree with that because we've went over there 5-0 up before and nearly get put out. And I
I
think
think
it's
I
always,
think as well though, what obviously again we've touched on the last few weeks, you can rotate your full midfield, you can rotate your goalkeeper. There's not really much rotation in the front line or the defence, if I'm being entirely honest with you. Um, like with Vickers' injury record, you probably don't risk him that close to an Old Firm. Um, Maybe the young kind of Japanese fullback comes in, gives Tierney a rest, but you're not really looking as if there's too much across, let's say, the back line, and especially the front line. I mean, you're, the
like we
winners
got
are
up on
really.
Sunday. Was it Sunday the game? The Celtic
Aye,
game?
Aberdeen. Aye.
Aye, Biggie, Dad, I do feel for him. And people can go, "Oh, the Japanese guy came on and done nothing," but he's not getting much to do. He is getting balls played into him. He's getting crosses put in. He does getting these chances. Maeda yet again. Obviously, that's now the fourth time this is going to be the fourth time I've added something in. Missed a 1-on-1 at Ibrox, missed a 1-on-1 in the cup final, missed a 1-on-1 against St Mirren, and then was running through on goal and tripped over his own feet and another 1-on-1. So as much as I love the guy, if he's running through in a Champions League game against a fucking Dortmund to maybe put us 2-1 up in the 89th minute, I'm no fancying him. Whereas if the ball fell to him 35 yards out and he caught it in a half volley, I would fancy him because he's an in the moment player. See if
I
you give
say
him 2 seconds to think about something, he actually can't think about it. He needs
if
to just get the
someone
ball and hit it.
if someone goes back to, I think, the very first episode you and I done, or maybe the one after that, there's a clip that I said that Daiza Maeda is your fashion Sakala.
Aye, but he's a million times better than him.
I said in that clip, right, he is better. Don't get me wrong, ability, he is better, but similar sort of player. Where it's like you're saying, they'll do the impossible, but the chances that you expect them to take, they just don't. And I think Dessers kind of falls in that category as well, to an extent. It's these players that are enigmas, and that's the problem. It's for Rangers fans, the argument as well, Dessers isn't going to win you the league. Obviously, Maeda last season, I wouldn't say single handedly, but he put a big contribution towards Celtic winning the league. So, but would you bank a full season on Maeda being basically the only provider, because Negrin looks like he's going to be a good player. Obviously, you don't expect him to contribute 10, 15 goals, but maybe goals and assists you can get around about that mark for your first season.
See,
But
there is a lot of options though. Like I was about to say, I know this is a cup game on Friday, but Falkirk are now a Premiership side. But I wouldn't be worried if, for example, right, Negrin went out on the right and Engels started, and then say when Jota comes back, I know it's a long way down the line, and Maeda was up front, and I think the board are holding on for the Jota return. I feel like, see, like the past 5 sort of big injuries a Celtic players had, they've come back like 2 months earlier. So I think they're maybe holding on that return, but obviously I seen last night we're interested in a Feyenoord, a winger for Feyenoord, but
Calvin
Feyenoord,
Stengs,
but they got put out off a Fenerbahce last night, so they'll be playing Europa League football. But then that might make them ask for more money because we've just missed out on millions of pounds, so we want millions of pounds for him. But I said it as well to you and James, I slaughtered Tatati because going into an Old Firm last year, but after his goal, and not just his goal, obviously his goal is an absolute topper, but the way he just coasts in the midfield is massive. I thought McGregor against Aberdeen was absolutely outstanding. Like he was everywhere, he won every battle, and you know, Tierney, that's what we needed. We needed that somebody to just get by somebody. Taylor would always he got to buy people a few things, but that was classic Tierney there. And I'm pretty sure he threw up in the changing room. There's one for you because he's no used to playing. But I think obviously I managed to convince you our Aberdeen shouts maybe looking more and more correct because they're absolute hopeless. The big guy up front, man, was an absolute donkey. And I felt for him, but because seeing people, he was getting in the way of people's shots, you actually can't blame him for getting in the way. But there was a point Aberdeen attacked down the left and he went to cross it in and he tripped over the ball and stuff. And you're like, last year they had Kevin Nisbet up front, who's technically a great footballer.
Aye.
But Aberdeen, I think I think they'll give him till Europe, and I think if he gets a few doings in Europe, he's gone. So I will say he's the first manager sacked, and I don't want to say him the sacked, but I'll say it right now, he's the first manager sacked.
Mate, do you know what's interesting though? See if you actually go back, and it's weird. I reference a lot of old episodes. Our opinions, mate, are pretty fucking spot on because we said before the cup game, before the cup final, we said if he loses, he could be gone, but not just based on that result, but it could just be a kind of accumulation of everything. We then also said the next episode we said that despite Aberdeen winning, great achievement, whatever else, if they don't start well, which we didn't actually see them doing, we agreed that they wouldn't. We said if they didn't start well, Jimmy Taylor's really, really ropey. And I've seen quite a lot of social media discourse round about the last kind of week or so. Aberdeen fans are basically ready for him to be gone. And just said the style of play that, he was originally showing, that kind of fast flowing football, that's long gone. They said they don't actually know what's happened. It's just, they can't even recognise the team that was, 12 months ago. Because round about the exact same time that Aberdeen played Celtic, but they actually played at Parkhead opposed to playing at Pittodrie. I think they'd won.
Celtic dealt with them well, but I think and it was a shaky start. Like even Vickers on the ball was really, really poor. But once Celtic got into the rhythm and then scored, it did just put the game to bed. And I know Aberdeen had that chance where like their own player blocked it, but even at 1-0, I was like, Celtic could see this out to a 1-0. I maybe think Brendan Rodgers is trying to prove a point as well. We like getting the players in, but I did say by the 15th of August, Celtic would have 3 players in, but they've only brought in 1, which was Pusey. But I do confidently think by the end of the window, there will be another couple of players in. But I really, really worry for the board if Celtic do not convincingly beat this team at home next Wednesday. Because if they need to go to Kazakhstan with a 1-0 lead or maybe a 1 each draw, I really, really worry for Celtic. I do. And there's actually a chance of them not getting in the Champions League if they do not go over to Kazakhstan with a minimum 3-goal lead. And that's me confidently saying that. We cannot go over there with a two-goal lead. It needs to be 3 or 4. But I do think we will get. I do think they will get through. To be fair,
not just as a rate. Well, obviously, from a Rangers fans' point of view, But see, for the title race and just the full fan fallout, it would be really interesting to see if, somehow, let's just say, I don't see this happening at all. Let's just start with that. Let's say Rangers beat Bruges, they go through. Celtic get knocked out and Rangers win the Old Firm. It would be really, and this is the thing, that's how quickly football can change, because I know you need a lot of those pieces to fall into place, and I don't see it happening. If that does happen, we could be sitting in 2 weeks' time, literally 2 episodes' time, 2 weeks' time, completely different. Every fan bases could completely switch, and people could start to go, okay, Martin's took us through a European campaign. We're starting to see it. He's bet Rodgers. This is promising signs. Whereas if Rodgers gets knocked out of Europe, that'll be issue number one. Celtic fans are so used now to the Champions League and those big nights and that kind of 30, 40, 50 million revenue you get with it. And then you're sitting also, Rodgers with contract winding down, maybe depending on the transfer business. It's really, again, do I see any of this happening? No. I see Rangers going out, see Celtic going through.
Right.
The Old Firm, you can never really call, to be honest. You know that yourself. You can never tell until after those 90 minutes. But it'll be interesting. It's a big, massive couple of weeks for Scottish football. Obviously, no more so than for Dundee United and Hibs as well, who shocked us both, I think it's fair to say. I don't think we fancied either of them, more so because Hibs were going away, which they've went away. Martin Boyle somehow came back alive.
I said I've got it noted down. I said Hibs would go through. But I didn't say Dundee United. But I'm going to be honest with you right now. I'm still sticking to Dundee United going out. I just think they might try and go for it a wee bit because they're at home, and I just think Rapid Vienna will catch them out. So I think both my shouts could still be there. I think Hibs are through. I think they've got a strong enough team. Obviously, they also drew with Killie at the weekend 2-2, which I also called as well, which was a good game as well. I think Hibs will go through, but I just don't know. I have a feeling about Dundee United that they might go for it a wee bit and that might catch them out. So I still do think they will go out.
This sounds a bit obvious, but I think Dundee United need to score first. I think that's essential. They came from behind twice. Do I see that happen again? Do I see them come behind for a third time? No. I think as well, it's a sold out crowd. If they go 1-0 down quite early, I think it could be one of those AZ Alkmaar sort of nights again. So you just don't know. I know obviously the AZ tie Dundee United won at home first and then went away and took the drubbing. They need to score first, but they look as if Jim Goodwin has got them set up, in a kind of typical Jim Goodwin fashion. I didn't know fancy them this season, but game by game they're starting to show that I think they could be on I don't think as good as top six, but I think they'll probably have a comfortable season. And if they can somehow add Europe to that, then I think that's just the biggest thing for any sort of fan. And kind of probably out with the top two is just having those European nights. And it looks, to be honest, all but confirmed for Hibs, unless they do a typical Hibs fashion and fuck it up.
Well, I think obviously just kind of briefly touched on the games. I think the two of them are going into the game kind of off poor results. Obviously, Dundee United conceding a last minute goal to Hearts to lose 3-2. So Stuart Findlay done well, and I think no Europe will be massive for Hearts. I still kind of back them to get third, and obviously Hibs going 2-0 up. But I think you'll see a few of them results for Hibs this year if they do get Europe sort of tiring off towards the end of games. And that's kind of what got Killie back into it, an absolute belter. A goal they scored as well. Never mind Hatate's, but the goal they scored was unreal. But I think they're going into these games. Dundee United obviously be more of a poor result, getting beat at home, and then Hibs drawn. They still got a point, but they were 2-0 up. But obviously, you want the Scottish teams to do well. But I'm going to stick with Hibs to go through and Dundee United to go out. What are you? Are you going to change your mind on any of them?
Do you know, see, just for Scottish football, I'm going to be optimistic. I'm going to say that both of them make it through. Okay. I think that both of them are bringing it's now home ties. I think that's massive to have the second leg at home. So no, I'm quite bullish on them. I fancy them both.
Love that. So I'm going to move on to the St Mirren Motherwell game. Obviously, I think you backed what did you back? You backed a draw in that game, a 2-each draw, and I backed Motherwell to win. But I think it was a good point for both teams. I was at the Dumbarton and St Mirren B team game last night, and Stephen Robinson was there. And see, honestly, it's wild. Like, these people are just obsessed with football. Like, see him just sitting talking, like, pure using. It genuinely did. Like, it sounds like a pure cliche, right? It genuinely did use his coffee cup, right, to do like a mad formation thing. And I'm like, these guys, yeah, they get paid a lot of money, but these guys do not take a night off. I was actually obsessed. That I was just kind of. I was eavesdropping a wee bit. I was sitting watching them and stuff. But obviously, I've backed Motherwell for a top 6. They are unbeaten 2 games in, but they have just lost Lennon Miller. But I still like how they're just going to try and play out for the back. And I still have a good bit of confidence in them. And St Mirren, they're always going to be that team that's there. I don't think they've got anything to worry about. But not neat straw. One for the Sky Sports should have picked up. It was that exciting.
Mate, I think, to be fair, but see the thing about Motherwell, and I think Motherwell fans can be quite happy on. See, you're not losing a Lennon Miller who's started the season flying. They obviously knew he would be leaving and they've planned for it. And they've obviously not played him in the opening 2 games. And what that allows is you're not becoming reliant, you're not building your system around someone that you know is leaving. I think that's actually a really smart decision by the club. So now you're not scrambling. It means that they can invest that Lennon Miller money into the positions that they've seen in the opening 2 games of the season. They've been able to assess, we're maybe weak here, we're maybe weak there. And now they can use that money and go, right, we'll maybe need. I think I felt as if, watching the game last week against Rangers, I think they're missing a number 9. I know they've brought in 1 or 2 players, but they don't look great. So I think should be looking at a kind of number 9. Probably they'll look for just another midfielder, just more bodies in there. But I think I still don't think nobody's high as 6. I think that's what you said, top 6 Motherwell. But I'm quite confident they're starting. They look quite sharp. And then to be honest, as bad as it sounds, Stephen Robinson, you know what you get at this point. And that's only meant in a positive way. He knows exactly what he's doing, how to set up. He knows his team. He knows if he loses a player or 2, he knows that's the exact sort of target he's trying to identify to bring back in. And every single season, St Mirren just look as if they're going to be that team that you dread going to, because you know they're going to set up so well defensively, and they've also got players that can cause damage. But it's like you're saying, probably best for Scottish football that game wasn't on the telly, because fans would have just loved to send abuse. But
Well,
it's good for both teams.
I wonder if Rangers will maybe come to regret postponing that game against St Mirren, but time will tell. Moving
It's
on.
not. They didn't postpone it.
Oh, did they not?
They said last week they were debating it. They said that we've notified the SFA that we'll contemplate it. And they came out yesterday and said that they're not postponing it. I think it's because if they postponed it, Giga would then miss the Old Firm because of suspension. So I think they're playing a St Mirren game just so they've got Giga, which we have a £3.5 million centre back in the bench that was signed that has not kicked a ball yet. That probably can't fill that boy with too much confidence.
No.
Rangers are willing to chuck in an extra game in between a European tie.
Well, now it'll be even worse if they go into the Old Firm playing that and dropping points, because obviously, see, how it was at talk. If they go into the Old Firm, that game will make them 3 points behind because they've not played it. It'll be even worse if they go into the game actually confirmed with them points behind. But the Old Firm will keep up thick and fast. And on to the final game, just briefly, as we are sadly tight for time tonight, but we'll still get predictions done for the Premier Sports Cup. A team you backed, I backed Motherwell to get the top 6. A team you backed to get the top 6, Falkirk, losing 3-1 to Davy Martin's. Davy Martin? Who the fuck's that? Davy Martindale's Livy team. What's your thoughts? Obviously, both of these actually backed Livy to possibly go down, but they seem to be performing, by the way, and scoring goals.
it's just David Martindale doing what David Martindale does, and we've just spoke about Steve Robinson, obviously, just always know me to get him. David Martindale, but however, seems to be adapting the more he's in the job and becoming a more attacking minded manager, which is mental to say. And he's obviously got Falkirk and John McGlynn's number because, like we said, I mean, right up until the death, they crept up on Falkirk out of nowhere, ran them to the wire, bet them, I think, in that running as well, if I'm right in saying. So David Martindale obviously knows how to set his team up against Falkirk, and if you're looking at the way that the teams have started, you look at Livy and go, they've got a good chance of staying safe, which I think a David Martindale, to be honest, probably deserves. I mean, it would be interesting when the time comes that David Martindale leaves Livingston, whether it's for a bigger job or, he just eventually steps away from being a manager. It'll be interesting if he ever comes out and says whether he got offered jobs here, there, or whatever, because you'd imagine with how well he's done at Livy over the years that he must have been offered something. I don't ever imagine it was as big as I mean, there was rumours it was maybe Hearts. Do I think Hearts ever offered him it? I'm not entirely sure on that, but I'd imagine he'd been offered a step up over the years, and you'd be hard to begrudge him of it as well. I think he deserves something like that, but he obviously enjoys what he's got at Livy, and they look as if they're going to be a real threat, which is not something you usually associate with Livingston's side in the top flight.
Well, I think I said I don't think both teams have signed well, and that kind of is seeming to be a bit right for Falkirk. Don't think they've signed strongly enough to stay up. Or I didn't think that anyway. Obviously, there is a chance they will both still stay up, but I just didn't think they would sign strong enough to actually challenge anything, especially top six. But Martindale, he obviously has always done a great job at Livy. I don't think he will ever take another job. I think his next route would maybe be like a sort of punditry or something like that. But sometimes he maybe says too much, so a lot of the broadcast companies maybe wouldn't want to take him. But I do, obviously, I think Falkirk could come to Celtic Park on Friday and give Celtic a game. They've got that in them. But I just think it's a bit like Aberdeen. That cup final saved him. I think getting promoted is maybe papered over the cracks because they did nearly bottle that league and they were in no position to bottle it. So I think they're maybe in a worse situation than you actually think they are. And I think if they don't get a win in maybe their next couple of games, obviously they have got a point from their first game. But I think what you'll see with Falkirk is, though, when they get that win, they might win and then win again and then lose and then win and then draw. Like, I think they will pick up these points, but I just don't think they have signed enough for, challenging the top six is where you put them. And with Livy, I just think time will maybe come with them where, they'll maybe lose a game, then lose another, then lose another. And I don't see them doing as good as what Falkirk might do, even though I've just said both teams haven't signed well. I think Falkirk would be more likely to get themselves out of a bad situation, i.e. if they lose 4 games in a row, I think they'd be able to get out of that. But I think if Livy lose 3 or 4 games in a row, I think they could be in a bit of bother. But time will obviously tell with that. But that's us covered all the fixtures. Obviously, we were tight for time tonight, but we've done it in quite nicely. We'll just go over. I mean, I've got a lot on my sheet for last week because James was here, but I believe James only got something like 2 points. So, sorry, James, if you're watching, your predictions weren't that great. You get 2 points. But for me and Brooklyn, I put 2-1 Falkirk. So did Brooklyn. It was 3-1 Livy. St Mirren Motherwell, I put 2-1 Motherwell. You went 2-2, 2 each. So that's 1 point for a draw. You went 3-1 Rangers. I went 3-0. No points there. I went 3-0 Celtic. You went 2-1, point each. You went 2-0 for Hearts, and I went 2-0 for Hearts, point each. And then I did go Hibs 2, Kelly 2, so that's 2 points. And you went Hibs 3, Kelly 1. So overall, that gave us on the leaderboard so far, I'm on 11 points and you're on 6 points. So I've started off strong. As you can see, Brooklyn is somewhere else now. Yeah, somewhere else. He's got a business meeting. That's why I had to go out. So we're just going to quickly predict the Premier Sports fixtures. So Brooklyn, I'll ask you first. Celtic v Falkirk on Friday night. You can put a draw, by the way, because there's no. I don't believe every game will be a win. You can draw and then say somebody will win in extra time.
Nah, still fans. I think Celtic 2-1. 2-1 Celtic.
I have went 3-0 for that. For Partick Thistle Ayr, I have went 2-1 Thistle. What about yourself?
3-1 Thistle.
3-1. For Morton Aberdeen, what you went?
Oh, Aberdeen 4-0.
I've went 3-0. St Johnstone Motherwell, I have went 2-1 Motherwell.
1-0 St Johnstone.
1-0 St Johnstone.
There has to be an upset somewhere.
St Mirren Hearts.
2-1 Hearts. I think Hearts have looked very good so far.
I've went 3-1 Hearts. For Rangers Alloa, I've went 4-0 Rangers.
3-1.
For Livy Hibs,
1-0 Livy.
I've went 2-2 and Hibs go through in extra time or penalties, whatever it is. And for Kelly Dundee United, I have went 2-1 Kelly.
Aye, I was going to say 2-1 Kelly. European hangover, so 2-1 Kelly.
Okay, perfect. Well, thanks for your time, mate, and thanks everybody for watching and listening. Obviously, Brooklyn was up against it time-wise tonight, but it was only time we could record this week, so we've managed to get it squeezed in. But I hope you've enjoyed the show this week, and we'll see you all next week. Thank you.